After Rifky, can you unmute yourself, please? Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Okay, can everybody hear me? Am I good? Thank you, Javi. Thank you for that introduction. And thank you, Chava Fine, who's a friend who reached out to me, and I'm not sure exactly what her role is, but I appreciate, it's an honor really to be included in this endeavor. And you're doing amazing work. You're doing amazing work. You know, everyone has gotten kind of used to being online now with COVID, and the fact that we can tune in and hear Torah classes and really grow, it's amazing. So it's really an honor for me to be here and get a night off bedtime. My husband's home with the kids, so it's really nice. And thank you, Carol Goldberg. So nice to see you. And Anne, nice to see you. And I don't see anybody else, but I'm sure there's other names. Something was wrong with my computer. It wasn't connecting, so I had to connect on my phone. So I wish I could see everybody, but I'll just have to see you all in my imaginations. So happy Adar. It's a very exciting time of the year. I'll tell you personally what goes on in the Karfunkel home. So one of the things that I decided years ago, I don't remember how long ago, was that every Rosh Chodesh morning, I would make chocolate chip pancakes for my kids. And that would be just, you know, a fun way. It marks Rosh Chodesh for them, makes it a special, fun day. So I always know, okay, Rosh Chodesh, this week, this month, it was a double Rosh Chodesh. So there were 2 days of chocolate chip pancakes, and I came to the kids' room and turned on, you know, an Adar song, and we were singing and dancing. And of course, they're already discussing their costumes, and there's stress around costumes, unnecessary stress, but this is the life of little children, figuring out what they're going to wear and all of that. And it almost feels like we have all this extra time this year to prepare because we have this extra month of Adar. So lots of time to think about all of these things. So I noticed that I'm terrible with titles. Chava, I think, asked me what I wanted to talk about, and I gave a general topic, but then I clicked on the ad that they made, and I saw, oh, that's a nice title. Whoever made it up, was that you, Javi? I don't know. It says, I think, another Adar, double, what did it say? Double delight, something like that.
My marketing team did it.
Oh yeah, okay. Good job. They did a great job. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about why we have two Adars, and then get into the topic of happiness, figure out what that's all about, how we can actually practically increase our happiness, and then I'll let everybody go to sleep. Okay, so just practically speaking, there are 12 months in the Jewish year. I know the months by singing them to one little, two little, three little Indian. Chavi's shaking her head. That's how you know it too, right? Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, Av, Elul, Tishrei, Cheshvan, Kislev, Teves, Shvat, Adar are the months of the Jewish year. Okay. Now the trouble that we have with our Jewish year is that we are a lunar year. We go by the lunar calendar, and the lunar calendar is 11 days shorter than the solar calendar. Okay. Big deal. Who cares? The trouble comes with Pesach. Now, Pesach is not trouble. I did not mean to say it like that. Pesach is a wonderful time. Somehow it's become a time that increases panic in Jewish women's homes. And I think that that's a whole other topic. Yes, Pesach is coming, but how grateful we are that we have this amazing holiday, how grateful we should be that we were taken out of Mitzrayim, how grateful that we have food in our refrigerators and matzah to buy, and we're not being persecuted. So that's a whole other story. The problem with Pesach is not anything about preparing for or actually keeping the holiday of Pesach. The problem is that there's a mitzvah in the Torah that we need to observe Pesach in the springtime. Now, this would be fine, except for the fact that our calendar is 11 days shorter than the solar calendar. So the way it works is like this. Let's say the lunar calendar and solar calendar both started, the same time of year. They both started in the fall or whatever it is. And then we go through a whole year, and then our calendar ends 11 days shorter. Okay, so the new year starts 11 days earlier, and then the next year it starts 22 days earlier, and then the next year 44 days earlier, or no, that's bad math, whatever, 11 days, right? And after just a few years, all of a sudden Pesach's not in the spring anymore. Pesach is the middle of the winter or pushed all the way up to the fall. Now, interestingly enough, the Islamic calendar, they follow the lunar year, but they don't have any sort of leap years. So their holidays are all over the place. Sometimes it's in the spring, sometimes it's here or there, but we have the Torah that tells us that Pesach has to be in the spring. So in order to enable Pesach to be in the spring, every few years we have a leap year. And the way that this leap year is calculated is by adding a second month of Adar. So we have Adar Aleph, we have Adar Beis or Bet, and we have 2 of these months, and that kind of like catches us up. And that's why people say funny things like, oh, the holidays are late this year, or they're early this year. Well, they're not late or early on the Jewish calendar. They fall at exactly the same time, but they are late or early on the solar calendar, depending on the leap years. Okay, so that's just logistically why we have these 2 Adars. Why a double Adar? Why not double up another holiday, another month? So I'm sure there's lots of different answers to this question, but on a very, practical, simplistic, almost sounding simplistic, but it's not very simplistic level, is that Adar is the holiday of happiness. That's the holiday of joy. We celebrate Purim, which is a tremendously joyous holiday. So any month that we should double, if we had to choose, it should be the month of joy, the month of happiness. It should be Adar. And sure enough, it's Adar that gets doubled. Okay, great. So my daughters, whenever my kids, my little ones are all girls, so that's why I say daughters. I do have some boys also, but my girls, they'll come home from school around this time and they'll always bring art projects home. And usually the art projects will have the caption or have the, a line that says, Misha nechnas Adar, marbim b'simcha, right? Which means when we welcome the month of Adar, when Adar comes, we increase our joy. Joy is increased. So I think this is something we need to analyze a little bit. Now, I don't know about you, but just because it's a new month, right? Does that mean all of a sudden I wake up in the morning and, oh, today's Adar, and I snap my fingers and instantly I'm happy? Is that how life works? Can we just instantly turn on or off happiness? What does this mean? What does it mean that in the month of Adar, our happiness is increased? Is that even possible? Sometimes things happen to us in our lives, external circumstances. There's actually really, no shortage of things that can throw us for a loop, that can make us unhappy, right? COVID, for example, has wreaked havoc on the universe. Sickness and poverty and all sorts of things. There's all sorts of external factors that can affect our mood. And forget about external factors, we're women. And we wake up one day and we feel wonderful and there's no apparent reason. And then we wake up the next day and we have a heaviness or we're just sad for no apparent reason. And how could it be? Is it really feasible that we can just increase our happiness? Just be happy. Just do it. It's Adar. It's time to be happy. Is this something that's really a realistic expectation? So to add to the question, I would say that, not only is it this nice phrase that we say, Misha nichnas Adar marbim b'simcha, when Adar comes, we increase our joy. It's actually a mitzvah in the Torah to be happy. Right? We have a mitzvah in the Torah. Mitzvah gedola lios b'simcha tamid. We have a mitzvah. It's a big mitzvah to be happy always. Not just when COVID ends. Not just when my friend remembers my birthday. Not just when I win the lottery. Marbim b'simcha, lios b'simcha tamid. Tamid means constantly, always. It's a mitzvah. What is a mitzvah? Is a mitzvah just like a nice suggestion from Hashem? Like, oh, if you're in the mood, you should try to do this. That's not what a mitzvah is. A mitzvah is a commandment. It's a means of connection. There's many, many ways to understand what a mitzvah is. But at a very basic level, Hashem gives us a mitzvah. He commands us to do something that's not really optional. Now, of course, we're all on different levels, and we're all coming from different places, and we're all on our own journeys. And we might not be holding by being able to keep every mitzvah in the Torah yet all the time. And we're human, but that doesn't mean that it's an option. I might not be able to do this particular mitzvah right now for whatever reason, but the ideal is to be able to do it. So when Hashem gives us a commandment to be happy, that's not like, well, when you're in the mood, be happy. When you feel like it, be happy. That's not what it means. It means, no, we have a mitzvah in the Torah to be happy. We have to be happy. And that sounds even crazier, because how can I control? It's not my control the way I feel. There are so many other things going on in the universe that affect me and the way I feel. And Hashem expects me to be able to just be happy all the time, or be happy more in the month of Adar. What does this even mean? How is this practically possible? So there's a beautiful song by Avram Fried. You can't, I only see a couple of you on my screen, so you'll nod, you know Avram Fried. Avram Fried was a Jewish singer. He was very, very popular when I was growing up. I think still popular. And I attribute a lot of my Torah knowledge to music, I have to say, honestly. I am very musical and I love music, and a lot of the Jewish music that I grew up with is usually based around Torah passages. And it's a great way to learn Torah passages by heart, right? You learn a song. So I learned this beautiful piece of music by Avram Fried, and then years later learned the deeper meaning behind it. So what is this piece of music? Now, I don't know how many of you were here the last time I spoke, but I may have shared this. You'll forgive me if I repeat myself. But I will say that there is power in repetition. Advertisers know this. And it's not a bad thing to hear Torah true concepts over and over and over. We hear many other concepts over and over and over, and our brains believe them. I remember once I was driving down Bathurst Street, which I spent a big part of my life driving up and down Bathurst Street. And there was a big billboard on top of the building. They were advertising the Chicago Jazz Festival. Okay. Not an even particularly catchy advertisement, but I'm driving down the street and I see the billboard. And the first thing I thought was, what a strange thing. Why are they advertising the Chicago Jazz Festival in Toronto? Okay. Kept driving. I saw the billboard, again, 2 times, 3 times. The 4th time I saw it, I started thinking, I wonder what the jazz festival is like in Chicago. And then after seeing that billboard maybe 10 or 11 times, I almost picked up the phone and said to my husband, maybe we should plan a trip to Chicago. There's like this great jazz festival there. Now, what happened? It was a plain, flat advertisement. Nobody had called me and said, oh, there's this amazing jazz festival in Chicago. It was just an image that I was exposing my brain to over and over and over. And the way we were created is whatever images we're allowing into our brain starts thinking that way and starts thinking that, oh, that's a good thing. I will do that. I will buy that product. I will go there. Even if those products or those things have no value, it doesn't actually matter. Our brain will buy into it just by overexposure, by constant exposure. This is a fact. Advertisers know this fact. That's why they pay millions of dollars. Have you heard the Coca-Cola story? Did you hear this story? I think it was written up in one of the magazines. I'll share it with you quickly. Actually, it hasn't been, I assume if it was written in a magazine that it was verified. It's an amazing story. So the story goes, I think it happened in California. There was a big boys' school in California, and some, non-Jewish company had advertised on the billboard right across the street from the boys' school, this enormous, very immodest, inappropriate. And one of the parents in the boys' school was driving past this, and he's like, oh my goodness, look at this image. Our pure boys who are sitting and studying Torah all day, they walk out of the yeshiva and they're going to see this image on the billboard. This is crazy. I have to do something about this. And he couldn't rest, and he just felt like, I have to do something. So he called up the company that sold advertising for the billboard. And he said to them, how much does it cost to rent your billboard? And they said, well, it costs $1,000 a day. And there's a 90-day minimum. And he said, I'll take it. I'll take it. Can I start advertising tomorrow? Now, this was not a man of means. He was not a man that had money, but he was on a mission. He wanted to do whatever it would take to get rid of that image that these boys would have to be exposed to every day. So the guy said, no problem. You know, he took his credit card information, whatever it was. And the next day he gets a call from the advertising company and they said to him, you know, sir, you were spending a lot of money for this billboard. What would you like to put on it? It was actually an electronic billboard. So you could change it up. You could, you know, do whatever. It wasn't like just a flat image that would stay for 90 days. So the man's like, oh, you're right. Yeah, I'm paying for it. What should I put on it? And the advertising executive said, yeah, you know, it's a countdown. Like it's day 89. You have 90 days of this billboard. What are you going to put up? And the Jewish guy says, yeah, that's it. We'll do a countdown. And the man says, what do you mean a countdown? He says, yeah, we're going to count down. And in his head, he's thinking, I'm going to count down the days that I am making a Kiddush Hashem, that I'm sanctifying Hashem's day. I just want you to put up on that billboard, day 89. And then tomorrow, I want you to put up day 88. And the next day, day 87. And he doesn't know what he's going to do at the end of the countdown, but that's just what came to him. He's going to do this countdown. So sure enough, that's what happens. There's this huge billboard in the middle of LA and these numbers, right, every day. And the countdown is going down and people start noticing. And people are talking about it and wondering. And the news picks this up, right? Probably like halfway through. And they contact the ad agency and they're like, what is this? Everyone's wondering. There's this buzz in the city. What are we counting down to? And the ad agency says, we don't actually know. We don't know. Okay. And it keeps going and it's all over the news by now. And the days keep going down, down, down. And all of a sudden it's 3 days before the countdown. And this man who went into debt to make a Kiddush Hashem gets a phone call. He gets a phone call from Coca-Cola. And they say to him, we tracked you down from the owners of that billboard. And we understand you have this countdown happening. And we know there's only 3 days left to your countdown, but we would like to buy this billboard from you. And we will buy it for $3 million. Okay, obviously lots of, amazing messages and lessons from this story. The point that I wanted to make, aside from the tremendous Kiddush Hashem and that Hashem, always repays us when we go out to glorify his name and to do the right thing, even if we don't get a physical reward, right? It's unusual to all of a sudden get $3 million. Everything is accountable and we will 1,000% get rewarded. And sometimes we see these crazy, crazy stories that happen. But Coca-Cola was willing to spend $3 million because they know the power of that advertising. Everybody is looking at this and everyone's going to see and everyone's counting down and they see Coca-Cola and that's it. It's just going to reinforce those brain messages, right? Those wires in our brain that drink Coca-Cola or buy Tide or whatever it is. Okay. So exposing our brain to positive Torah messages is not only not a bad thing, but it's actually necessary. I would say that it's necessary in this world that we're in when we're so exposed to so many different messages. Everywhere we turn, we can hardly even escape from it. Anywhere you look, there's people are trying to sell us things, sell us ideas, sell us whatever it is, and our brain is susceptible to it. So all of that to say, if I have said this before, you'll forgive me, but it's not a bad thing because every time I say it, it also reinforces these ideas for me. So back to Avram Fried. So Avram Fried has this beautiful song, and the words of the song are based on words in the Torah and Parshas Nitzavim. Okay, so I'm going to paint the picture for you. Parshas Nitzavim, Moshe Rabbeinu, our leader Moshe, it's the end of his life. And here he had this, glorious, well, not always glorious, ups and downs and all of this, the amazing stories of Mitzrayim and leaving Egypt and wandering in the desert and all of this. And finally, it's the end of his life. And of course, we know that Moshe was not going to be able to enter the land of Israel. That was going to be the end, the pinnacle. And for various reasons, he was not able to. But he was standing there and all of the Jewish people, right? Approximately 3 million people are gathered around him. And Moshe is reviewing to the Jewish people the Torah. It's like a review of the Torah. Now here is 3 million people. They were a slave nation. They were led out of Egypt. Hashem said to them, do you want the Torah? They said, Hashem, Naaseh v'nishma, we'll do it. Whatever it is, we don't even know what it is, but look what you just did for us. You took us out of Mitzrayim. You brought the plagues. You split the sea. You have something you want us to do? It would be an honor. Of course we'll do it. And they accepted the Torah. And then they had to go about learning everything that it said in this Torah. You know, I personally grew up with parents, 2 amazing human beings, tremendous role models, who each on their own, shortly before meeting each other, took a Torah lifestyle upon themselves and continued to build a family and hand this Torah lifestyle to us on a silver platter. I am eternally grateful, humbled. Obviously, just because I was raised this way does not mean that I just coast along and, you know, that's not why Hashem put us on this earth. It doesn't matter where we're at on the scale of observance. Our job is to keep growing and keep moving upward. But I would say that as someone who grew up keeping kosher, keeping Shabbos, all of those things, I'm always in complete awe of people who did not grow up that way and make these major changes in their life. And I wonder to myself, you know, if I hadn't been privileged to grow up this way, I wonder if I would have the strength of character to really see truth and grab onto that truth and make these major changes in my life. So, but you can imagine, even those of us who grew up this way or whatever it is, you can imagine here all of the Jews in the desert and Moshe is reviewing the Torah, and oh my goodness, how overwhelming that must have felt. And all of these laws and Shabbos and kosher and everything, it's just so much, right? And it was probably maybe Moshe, I'm just, you know, imagining the scene, saw all of these Jewish people and he's reviewing everything that they're expected to do and sees that it can be very overwhelming. And Moshe comes to kind of to reassure the Jewish people, and his words continue to reassure us today. What does Moshe say to the Jewish people? And this is a song by Avram Fried. You ready? I can sing, right? We're all women. Ki ha-mitzvah hazos asher hanochi mitzavecha hayom. He's saying all of these mitzvahs, Hashem is telling the Jewish people through Moshe, all of these mitzvahs, all of these commandments that I've commanded you to do today, lo niflesi mimcha v'lo rechokai. It's not distant from you. It's not something that's beyond you. It's not beyond your reach. There's a basic Torah concept that Hashem would not command us to do anything that is impossible for us to do. Maybe not today, maybe not this week, but it's within our grasp. And he says, Lo b'shamayim, it's not up in the heavens. Le'mar mi'alelanu hashamayim, that we have to say, who's going to go up there and get it? I can't get it. It's too far. Lo me'ever layam, it's not over the sea, right? It's not beyond our reach. Ki karov elecha davar me'od, it's actually very close to us, which means we have the potential to do it. So back to our original question. If Hashem is commanding us to be happy tamid all the time, and particularly now in the month of Adar, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you're feeling. It doesn't matter how your finances are. It doesn't matter what your relationships are like. It doesn't matter. It doesn't say be happy in Adar if, you know, if X, Y, and Z happens to you. No, it's a blanket statement. Adar comes and we have to increase our happiness. We have a mitzvah for it. And we are reassured that we can actually do this. We can actually do this. It's within our grasp. It's within our reach. We can actually just almost with a snap of a finger, be happy. Okay. So maybe that's comforting. Like, okay, I can do it, maybe. But how? How? It's hard. It's not so easy, right? We really need, I don't know, we need tips, we need tools. But it is possible. It is possible. Now this science of happiness, it's actually a whole study. I don't know how many of you read Time magazine. I don't read Time magazine usually, but sometimes on occasion I'm in Shoppers Drug Mart, and sometimes Time will have like a special feature. And I've actually purchased a couple of them. So they had a special feature on marriage, which I found very fascinating. I'm a college teacher, as Javi mentioned, and I was curious. It was called The Science of Marriage. And what do researchers have to say about marriage and happiness? And it was an interesting read. Some Torah concepts there, definitely. The Science of Memory was another one that I purchased for my husband, who he's actually doing, I think most people are familiar with Daf Hayomi, which is the study of 1 page of Talmud a day. So there's a Rabbi Goldhar, I think he's from Passaic, and he's a memory expert, and he has developed a system to help people who are studying Daf Yomi to actually retain the information. It's called Zichru, and it's a fascinating program. And his goal is actually to get, not just to learn Daf Yomi, but to be able to retain all these facts. And the people that are in the program, they can quote, you can tell them like, tell me, in the section of Sukkah, Masechta Sukkah in the Talmud, page 24a, what does it say? And they're able to recall this based on this memory system. So when I saw, Time magazine had a feature on the science of memory, I bought that for my husband. And I'm sure there was a magazine, The Science of Happiness, and there's a lot of books written about it, and something that is widely studied around the world, because really it's a very basic human need. It's the human desire. Everybody wants to be happy, and happiness is kind of eludes us, and we don't really know how to achieve it. So I think number one is to understand and to recognize that it's possible, that if Hashem gives us a commandment in the Torah, that means that it is possible. It's not beyond our reach, but we need tools. We need to know how. Okay, so I know that I have the potential for this, but how do I actually do it? Right. And that's really with anything in life. I had a journey with personal fitness. So my mother was always very, and continues to be very fit and very in shape, and she exercises, frequently. And years and years ago, she actually bought me a gym membership to when Women's Fitness is up in Promenade. So they used to have a branch by Bayview and Eglinton, which is closer to where I live. And she bought me a membership to Bayview and Eglinton. And when she bought me that membership, externally, I'm sure I was very grateful. And I said, thank you. And then I went home, and in my head, I thought, does she know what my life is like? Like, what is she thinking? I can't go to the gym. Who has time for the gym? I have all these children. I have this community, and I have all these responsibilities. And who in heaven's name has time for the gym? So I didn't go for 3 months. I sat with this gym membership, but of course, even though I felt very, like I had rationalized why I'm not going and upset at her for even buying it for me to begin with, I felt guilty. I did feel guilty. And that guilt eventually chipped away at me and propelled me to say, okay, Rifky, this is crazy. Your mother is spending all this money. You should do something about this. Like, at least just go once, like commit to going to a class, look at the schedule and choose a class and just go. No matter what, you are going to this gym class. So I'm like, okay, this is my, I talk to myself a lot. I'm sure maybe some of you can relate. Anyhow, so I looked at the schedule for the next day, and there was a class at 10:30. And I said, okay, no matter what, I'm going to this class. It's going to work for me. Fine. I get the kids off to school. My day is busy. All of a sudden it's 10 o'clock. I'm like, I committed. I have to be at the gym in a half an hour. I look at my watch. I'm like, I better get going. And then I realized, hold on a second. If I'm going to a gym class, that means I need sneakers. I need exercise clothes. I don't have any of that, but I committed to going, and I better go. So I jumped into the car and I drove to, there was a sporting goods store on the way. I don't even remember what it was. And I parked my car. I ran inside. I found a salesperson and I said, I need to be outfitted head to toe now. Quick, quick, quick. I have to get to a class at 10:30. I need a shirt. I need leggings. I need shoes. I need socks. And I made it to my first gym class all those years ago. Okay, so fast forward, I actually became an avid gym goer. I saw, how it just helped. Really, my mental health was the most of it, but I just felt better, and I would go to the gym, and okay, and I even it's a whole other story. I started going really early in the morning, even though I was not a morning person. I would go to spinning classes and all sorts of things, and I actually got in shape, and I was very proud of myself, and I felt very good. And I actually became a little bit addicted to it. Okay. On Mondays, they canceled my Monday class. And I woke up in the morning and I thought, I can't not exercise because I'm going to go crazy if I don't exercise. But there's no gym class. What should I do? And I figured, okay, I'll go for a walk. I hate walking. It's so boring. But I said, okay, I have to do something. And I turned to my husband as I was leaving the house and I said, I wish I could run. I wish I could, I can't run. I can sit on a spin bike. I can go to all these, high intensity aerobics classes, but I can't run. And I see other people running, especially in my neighborhood. They're running up and down the street all the time. And I've tried it and I feel like I'm going to die. Like it's just not possible for me to run. I wasn't built to run. And my husband said to me, Rifky, you don't just get up and run. You have to do it slowly. Why don't you try running for 1 minute and then walking for 2 minutes? And I thought, oh, okay, 1 minute, maybe I could. I probably had my phone with me or my watch or whatever it was. And I ran for one minute straight. I thought I was going to collapse for real. I could not breathe. And then I walked for 2 minutes and I finally slowly regained my breath. And then I said, okay, I'm going to try this again. And I ran for another minute. And I felt slightly less like I was going to die. I still felt like I was going to die. And by the end of that 20-minute outing, or however it was that I was out for, I ran for 3 minutes straight. 3 minutes straight. And then somebody told me about an app called Couch to 5K. And it's a 6 or 9 week program. I don't remember what it is. And it slowly builds you up. And I can say that I followed this app, and I even got to the point where my husband and I trained for a marathon together. I didn't run a marathon. I have no interest in running a marathon. And I probably couldn't. And, I had kids in the middle and my fitness level has gone up and down, and that's life. But the point is that really anything is possible. We just have to know how to do it. And we have to take the small baby steps to do it. Okay, so it's possible to be happy no matter what, but we need tools. We need tools. How do we do this? How do we actually do this? So a few weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago, I actually had cataract surgery. Believe it or not, I just turned 46 years old and I needed cataract surgery. Okay, a whole long story. And it was a whole mice on how it all happened. But I was very fortunate to be able to actually not just fix my cataracts, but to have, they're called intraocular lenses, IOLs. When you have cataract surgery, I don't know how many of you are familiar. I learned so much in the past month, but basically we all have a lens behind our pupil. And when you have cataracts, that lens gets foggy. And with the surgery, they remove the lens that has the cataract and they just insert an artificial lens inside your eye, a clear one. So they also give you options. As long as they're inserting a lens in your eye, you can pay more to have a lens that can actually correct your vision. So Baruch Hashem, I was very fortunate enough to be able to do this surgery with some help from some friends. And I actually I chose to, based on whatever, it's a very long story, but based on the advice of a very dear friend, I did what her doctors recommended. And I had one eye corrected for distance and the other eye corrected for near. So I don't know if anybody has experience with this. It's called Monovision. And sometimes when people have contact lenses, doctors will actually do that. They'll correct one eye for distance, one eye for near. I wasn't a candidate for the lenses that allowed me to see near and far for various reasons. And I really was very upset at the notion of having to wear reading glasses all the time for near and only being able to see far. And this seemed like a very ideal solution, right? You fix one eye, you can see far with one eye, you could see near with the other eye, and your brain actually adjusts. Apparently, it's a few weeks in and it's still adjusting, and you don't even notice which eye is doing what. And amazing, right? Modern technology. So before I made this decision, I was doing a lot of research online, and I came across a video by an English, actually, ophthalmologist or whatever he was, and he was giving people tools on how to make the adjustment with monovision easier, more seamless. Okay, and this is what he was saying. He said, you're going to have this, you have this interesting vision. And at first it can take a long time to get used to, but you can actually teach your brain, you can quicken the process by doing certain things. So he said, what you should do is let's say it's nighttime, it's dark, and sometimes you'll notice that there's like a glare on the light. So first you have to recognize that the glare is there, because it is there. You can't ignore it. So look at the glare, say, okay, I see there's glare there, but then start noticing all of the things that you can see. Okay, yeah, I see the glare, but look at that. I can see that sign really clearly, and I can see that license plate really clearly, and I can see this really clearly. And he said, if you continuously do this, what are you doing? You are actually training your brain to not pay attention to that glare and to focus on the things that you can see. And in a shorter amount of time, you will actually stop seeing the glare altogether, as if it doesn't exist. Your brain will stop focusing on it. It's not there. And I watched this video and I thought, wow, this is it. This is a Torah concept, right? This is trick number one for happiness. Why? Because whatever we choose to focus on, to notice, that is what we teach our brain is important. And that's what it should notice. So finally at 68, somebody just sent me a message. Okay, I'll read it later. So the more we focus on things to be unhappy about, now, by the way, that's our default. Our default nature is I can have 10 million things that went right today. For example, I woke up, I can see, I can walk, I can feel, I can hear. And for each of those functions in my body, there's like crazy things happening inside my body that Hashem is orchestrating for those things to happen so that I can function. It's insane how incredibly fortunate and blessed we are. And then I have a little paper cut on my finger. And it's like, ruins my day. I can't pull up my stockings, it hurts. And I can't hold the pen, it hurts, right? And all I can think about is this stupid paper cut on my finger when I have a billion amazing, awesome things that are going on in my life at every second. Our default nature is that we notice the things that are wrong and we tend to harp on them. And the more we notice them, and the more we think about them, and the more we talk about them, what are we doing? We're just training our brain. Bad, 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 bad. Just look at the bad, just look at the bad. There's nothing good, nothing good, nothing good, nothing good. And that's a choice. Now, it's our nature. That's how we were created. But my mother always used to quote from the African Queen. I never saw it, but apparently Humphrey Bogart and Audrey Hepburn are on a ship. And Humphrey Bogart is this captain and he passes gas or something. And Audrey Hepburn is this very, fine lady. And she looks at him and she says, "Captain," and he looks at her and he says, "What do you want? It's human nature." And she says to him, "Yes, Captain, but human nature is what we were put on this earth to rise above." Very wise line from Audrey Hepburn. But really, that's the Torah concept of being alive, that we have a nature and we are told that we have to rise above it and we have to fight against our nature and we have the potential for it. And trick number one, step number one, when we want to be happy and we know that it's in our capacity, it's a matter of focus. It's a matter of focus. What am I choosing to look at, to concentrate on? Now, that doesn't mean I ignore the things that are bad. I can't ignore them. And I have to take care of them. And I have to take care of that paper cut or whatever illness or things that are going on. I have to attend to it. I have to go to a doctor. I'm not ignoring it. But I'm looking at it and saying, yes, okay, yes, this bad thing is happening in my life. I'm taking steps to, to help it and to move forward in a good direction there. But look at that. Look at this. Look at this good thing in my life. Notice the snowflakes, how gorgeous they are. Oh, it's so beautiful. This morning, we woke up in the morning and the whole world is white. So yes, you can look at, the traffic and the snow that's everywhere. And I can't get around the city. And the more that's our focus and that's how we are conversing to our friends and our neighbors, oh my goodness, and it took me so long and the slush and it's so awful and it's so cold and blah, 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 blah. Then yes, that's all we're going to see. And guess what? We will be miserable. Hooray. But that's not a way to be. And we have a choice. We have a choice and we have actual tools and ways that we can get out of it. And number one, the first way is just to focus. This is what we do when we daven every morning. We have halachos. The Torah comes to help us with all of these things. And first thing in the morning, the mitzvah is to say to notice the things that we take for granted, right? The morning brachas. Hashem gave me eyes. I can stand. There's no tsunami and water covering my house, and I can actually walk on dry land. And all of these things that we take for granted, we have a mitzvah every day to recall them. And that's part of this process of focusing on what is good. And we do this in davening, but it doesn't have to be limited to that. It should be every single day. To focus, to walk, to notice, to see the things that are beautiful, the beauty in this world, the beauty of the human body, the beauty of the snow, of the seasons, of everything. It's tremendous. There's so much good. And if we focus on it, if we think about it, we actually just train our brain. It becomes easier and we can actually be happy. So that's number one. That's the first tool. But it doesn't just end with our focus and what we choose to see and to pay attention to. That beautiful song by Avram Fried, that pasuk in Parshas Nitzavim, it has an end and it continues. And the end of it is a second beautiful, powerful tool that we can use really to affect the way we feel. So how does it end? Moshe tells the Jewish people, Lo b'shamayim hi, all of these mitzvahs, they're not up in the Torah, they're not up in the sky, Lo me evrei layam, they're not across the sea. Ki karo ve'lecha hadavar me'od, they're very close to us. And then he says a funny thing. Beficha ubilvavcha la'asoso, something I'm forgetting the tune. Beficha ubilvavcha la'asoso. What does that mean? Moshe is saying all of these mitzvahs, they're within your potential. How are they in your potential? Beficha, they're in your mouth. Ubilvavcha, and they're in your heart to do them. They're in your mouth and in your heart to do them. What does that even mean? So I once heard this beautiful idea from Rabbi Avigdor Miller, Zecher Tzadik Livracha. Rabbi Avigdor Miller explained. So he actually brought this pasuk down, talking about the mitzvah to love every Jew. Really, it can be used for any mitzvah. This is how I heard it from him, and then I'll tell you how I apply it to being happy and in my own life, and then we'll end. He says, okay, he was talking about the mitzvah of loving every Jew. So he said, basically, the same question that we have, right? A mitzvah to be happy. There's also a mitzvah to love every Jew. Well, how can I be commanded to love every Jew? I don't know every Jew. Right? I can love you, Carol, and I can love you, Annie, and I can love you, Chavi. I see you. We can talk to each other. I kind of know a couple of you. I can love my family. I can love people that I know. Love every Jew. What does that mean? I can choose who I love, right? But it's a mitzvah. So Rabbi Miller says, how is it possible practically to accomplish this mitzvah of loving every Jew? How is it possible practically to accomplish the mitzvah of being happy when I don't feel happy? So he says we learn something so powerful from these words in the Torah, that modern psychology has just picked up in the past couple hundred years, and it's not even, right? Very modern psychology. He said, look at these two functions, these two bodily functions that Hashem gave us. Hashem gave us a mouth. And if we're fortunate enough, we're able to speak with our mouth, and we kind of view our mouth as a vehicle of expression. Right? That's how I express how I'm feeling. My heart is like the seat of my emotions. That's where I feel, right? I feel certain things, and that's changing all the time, depending on whatever's going on. I feel with my heart, and then I use my mouth to express the way I feel, right? So, I'm putting one of my children to bed, and they're so delicious, and we're cuddling up in bed, and I'm looking at them, and I'm just overwhelmed with love for this child. And then I open up my mouth and I say, I love you, Goldie, or whomever, right? My mouth is a tool. It's a vehicle to express the way I feel. Or Miller says, no. What does the Torah teach us from this pasuk in Parshas Nitzavim, Beficha ubilvavcha? What comes first? Beficha, your mouth comes first. Moshe told the Jewish people, how are you going to accomplish all these mitzvahs that seem beyond your reach? It's in your mouth, and then your heart to do it. Meaning that even if I am not feeling a certain way in my heart, Hashem gave me a gift called a mouth and speech. And if I open up my mouth and I say words that I might not even be feeling, I don't believe what I'm saying. But if I say it enough, I will actually change the way I feel. I will change my heart. sorry, a phone call just came in. So when I first heard this, I was saying, I immediately thought of the book, The Little Engine That Could. You remember this book? Where the train is trying to go up the mountain to deliver toys and good food to all of the little boys and girls who live on the other side. And the engine breaks down and they try all these different engines, and one engine's too old and one engine's too important. And all of a sudden this little blue engine comes chugging along and they say, little blue engine, please, do you think you can pull our train over the mountain? We need to get to the other side to the good little boys and girls. And the little blue engine says, well, I'm not very big and I'm not very strong, but I think I can. 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 And actually, with those words, makes it over the mountain, right? Or you can imagine even a marathon runner or someone exercising. It's like at the end, I can't do it. And then you start talking to yourself, you can do it. You can do it. Rifky, come on, you can do it, right? And modern psychology now talks all about self-talk. Talk to yourself. And this is a very basic Torah concept. And Rabbi Avigdor Miller went on to say, he said, you're walking down the street and you see Jewish people. You don't know who they are, but they're obviously Jewish, and you have a mitzvah. You have a commandment. You have to love them. So how do you fulfill this mitzvah? Open up your mouth and start talking and say out loud to yourself, I love my people. These were his words exactly. I love my people. I love my noble people. I love my royal people. He said, say it over and over until you're crying. You'll feel it. You'll feel it. And it works. It actually works. That's one of the reasons likely that when we dive in, we open up our mouths and we talk, because even if I don't feel like it one morning, I don't particularly feel close to Hashem. I don't particularly feel grateful. I don't particularly feel like davening, and we open up our mouths and we say the words anyway. And if we think about what we're saying and we concentrate on it, it can actually change the way we feel. So step one is to train our brain to focus on the things that are good. And step two is to open up our mouth and say, wow, look at that beautiful snow. Wow, look at all the food that's in my fridge. Wow, thank you, to a friend or to a coworker or to a colleague or to a stranger who smiled at us, to open up our mouths and express gratitude for all of the amazing things in our lives. And these are two very actually attainable, easy goals that I think we can focus on this month of Adar, and hopefully it will trickle on to the rest of the year. And just to end with the Purim idea, so Purim is coming. We have a little while, but one of the mitzvahs of Purim is shalach manos, mishloach manot. So we have a mitzvah to give gifts of food to people. And usually people will give, we make a list. I know in my house, I always sit down with my kids. I'm like, okay, which friends are you going to give to? And which teachers do we need to give to? And then it's the whole, planning the packages and what we're putting in, and then making the route for delivery. And it's a process. But whenever we're sitting down and making the list, I always say to my kids, I want you each to think about somebody that is in your class that maybe you don't really, or they're not your friend, or maybe somebody that you had a falling out with, or, and there is an idea on Purim to give a gift of shalach manos to somebody who you had a falling out with, or somebody that you're not particularly close to, because it's actually the act of giving. When we give something to another person, that builds relationships. And the secret to simcha, what true joy is when two opposites come together. Shamayim and Aretz, with rain, man and woman in a marriage relationship, Hashem and the Jewish people. Two disparate things come together, and that is actually a tremendous, tremendous joy. And of course, our soul is always yearning to connect with its creator, to connect with Hashem. But any relationship that we choose to nurture or focus on will actually bring us simcha. So I just want to wish you all a tremendous 2 months of Adar. We have a double opportunity to really work on our focus, on the things that we choose to notice and be grateful for, thank Hashem for, and to work on being happy all the time. And we should really all be able to fulfill this very important mitzvah and have a very happy, wonderful 2 months of Adar. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Rifky, thank you so very, very much. You know, sometimes when I play hostess or play host for a Zoom session, I do write notes, so I have something to say at the end. But, you know, I think that Rifky just moved along the talk, and it's just all in the right place. And everything led one thing to the next, And we're Baruch Hashem, we should have 2 months of practice for the tools that Rifky shared with us. We know what the goal is. We know how to get there. Misha Nichnas Adar Marim B'Simcha. I can only wish goodness to everybody. And Rifky, thank you so much for sharing. It was, and I have to tell you that we've had the biggest turnout that I think that we've ever had. And I hope that yours will be the beginning of continued increases in the attendance to our Chodesh Tov. Rifky, thank you so much. That was so beautiful and so meaningful.
Thank you.
You know, some talks are one way, some talks give you tools, but really you gave us a whole neatly wrapped package. It's a beautiful Mishloach Manos for us.
Thank you so much.
You.
Thank you. It was an honor. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Chodesh Tov.
Chodesh Tov, everyone.
Chodesh Tov. Thank you. Good night.
Chodesh
If
Tov.
anybody wants to send me an email to be put on our list for future Chodesh Tov sessions, please, it's in the chat. And I thank you very much for coming. A very, very happy month, and we'll meet again in Mirz Hashem in a month, and then we will wish each other happy Purim.
Thank
All
you,
the best.
Javi.
Good night. Thank you.